here to this great evening. Oh my word, we are talking uncomfortable topics tonight. We are going to talk about it and break it down in such a way that you can feel a little bit more comfortable to have that tough conversation around increases, salaries, money. Oh my word. Well, welcome to this evening's masterclass, shall I call it. My name is Yonela Motloung, and I will be your host for tonight. Very excited to be part of Osagia Consulting today. If you did not know, this is a French, or rather a Portuguese name, a word that means boldness. Who wants a bit of boldness tonight? I'm sure you and I both. Now, at Osagia Consulting, we understand a lot when it comes to the workforce, right? We understand the pressing workforce challenges you face, from communication, that breaking down, low employee engagement and ineffective leadership, and poor customer service. Now, our values are all about offering a tailored solution around training programs which are designed to address these issues head on, delivering measurable results that enhance collaboration, boost employee morale, and improve the overall performance. And so this organization right here, which stands for boldness in Portuguese, Osagia Consulting, is really going to walk a journey with you to get you to that place where you feel confident. And so in tonight's topic, we're talking about mastering the art of requesting a performance increase. Tough one, tough one. Now, to break it down, because I don't think I'm really qualified, and I was telling people at work earlier to say I will be hosting this session, and I said, you know what, if you report to me, do not join, because I do not want to be the one to empower you to tell me things that I cannot say no to. So I'm glad I am not the one who is going to be talking on this topic, and in fact, we've got someone in the room who might just know a little bit better. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Kgolo Mbangi in the room. Now, she's a seasoned people development practitioner and performance improvement professional with well over 20 years of experience in HR consulting. She sits in the helm of Uptown Human Capital and Uptown Coffee Company as an ambassador of change in her insight, or rather, and her insight based on a system approach in encouraging organizations to look at the bigger picture with all the nuances to allow for a comprehensive analysis of reality by considering multiple perspectives and levels of impact. By promoting an engaged, inclusive, and equitable work environment, she's able to foster a culture of excellence and empowers knowledge workers to reach their full potential. That right there is a mouthful, but if it has told you anything, it has told you that this person who we have right here is more than qualified to speak on this topic. Now, I'd like you to tell your friends to tell their friends and share on your socials that we are about to get started. Well, we are started, and we're about to tackle a topic that is not very easy. And what better way to empower yourself than to come and be part of us and learn a little bit more. Now, as Kgolo will be speaking, we will give you a chance to actually ask her questions at the end. So do take note of the questions, or maybe use the chat, and we can cover those for about 10 minutes when she finishes. There's a lot more on the program, and if this is not your first time joining us, you would know that this is a fun-packed evening. Enough of the talking, ladies and gentlemen. Help me welcome, with a virtual standing ovation, welcome our guest speaker for tonight, Kgolo Mbangi, who will be breaking down this topic for us. Kgolo, I hope you're ready. You're ready for the tough questions and the interesting questions that are going to come from what you will tell us. I will hand it over to you now. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. And once again, thank you for having me on this platform to share tips on one of a workplace's most difficult topics, I believe. So my name is Kgolo Mbangi, as I've been formally introduced. I'm a professional HR consultant, and at the same time, I run a coffee business. So dealing with people and people issues are my everyday reality. So in today, I want us to have an in-depth conversation with how best do you go about asking for a salary increase at your workplace. Because remember, it's always assumed that everyone in the workplace is entitled to an increase. But what I will try and do today is to give you guys an overview of what the law says, how to position yourself for an increase, as well as what to do in the event that you do not get an increase, as we automatically assume that you're entitled to one. So maybe let's just start by understanding what is meant by a salary increase. Just a quick detour. I'm trying to send out the slides. So between talking to the presentation, I'll be trying to send the slides so that during the breakout, you can all discuss while people have copies of the slides. Is that okay? Okay. So
Thank you.
what does it mean for a salary increase? There's a misconception by people that I've interviewed, for example, that an increase is something that an employee is entitled to. Now, that is debatable because remember, as an employer, I would offer you an increase based on your performance. And what that means is not only am I looking at your performance in terms of how good you are, but I'm looking at you in terms of how exceptionally good and excellent you are in your particular work. Now, this obviously, when you onboard a company, you would have to be taken through what the policies on performance reviews entail and salary reviews entail. Because once you understand what your KPIs are, your key performance indicators are, then you will know what to do in your workplace and therefore how best to achieve your most desirable outcome in your workplace. So it's not automated that every employee is guaranteed a performance or performance salary and all of that. So now what the law then says is, and this is something I always stress to people, that please make sure that you familiarize yourselves with the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. And if your employer doesn't have posters of the labor legislations of the country, please enforce them to invest in those, because not only are you protecting yourself as an employee, but also you're protecting the employer as well in the event of unforeseen circumstances happening in the workplace. Now, as an employee, by law, you are protected by the Constitution, which I believe you are all familiar with, as well as the Basic Conditions of Employment Act of 97. Now, this is mandatory by law, right? However, when it comes to salaries, it's a different ballgame altogether. Now, the law says you are protected, but the onus of an increase rests upon the employer. And what does that mean? So if, for example, you fall under a trade union, you fall under a collective bargaining council, you fall under a collective agreement, and these are institutions that cater for specific types of work, what sometimes is called critical skills kind of employees. Emergency employees are one of those. Then you are covered in that space. However, if you do not fall under those brackets that I've just mentioned, you now have to rely on a well-written, and I emphasize this, well-written employment contract with your employer. Because if in the contract, the employer is not clear, is either vague or is not stating what the company's standing is on increments, then you have no room to fight for that. Because like I said earlier, the onus is on the employer to hand out or to issue increments annually based on your performance, but also on the company's well-being. Because remember, this is a two-pronged approach, right? We can celebrate our achievements in the workplace. We can have year-end functions where people are celebrated, the company's success is celebrated, but not knowing where the company stands with regards to how financially fit is it. So understanding how to approach your salary increase starts from where am I in terms of my performance, because that's where it starts. How am I performing? And it's always wise, even for employers, to have open door policies with their employees, where you would know that in the event that I'm non-clear about my KPI, for instance, I can approach HR and say, HR, I may not be understanding, or if HR feels that or sees that, because remember, when you have a performance review, that's when your performance is documented, where you excel is documented, where your shortfalls are documented. And the onus lies on you to say, you know what, if I'm going to be aiming for an increase, this is what I want to do. I'm going to approach HR, request that I sit down with them and have a conversation around this. Because like I said earlier, how you approach a salary increase topic or conversation or meeting at that is that you approach it as I'm having a conversation with HR. It's not a tug of war, first and foremost. So now that we've highlighted what goes into that, we are now going to delve into the tips, the actual what needs to be done and how not to do it. First of all, I mentioned earlier that the company's well-being is something that you need to understand. It may be difficult in some cases. Some information may not be publicly available, but it doesn't hurt to just ask your colleagues, your immediate line manager, on where are we going as a company, and your response to that would be, I'm trying to project myself with the growth of the business. You put it in a very polite manner. You know, you don't say like, oh, actually, I want to know where the company is going because I want to have so much money. No, it doesn't work like that. But most importantly, the number one factor that you really, really need to understand and invest in when asking for a salary increase is do thorough research, benchmark your industry, benchmark what your peers in the same industry you are in a similar line of work you are in, are earning. There's a beautiful website called PayScale, www.payscale.com. I think, yeah, it gives you the country's benchmark salaries, whether it's coastal salaries or inland salaries, different levels of employment. But there, it's a good starting point to see where you are and where you are projecting with where you want to be with your increment. So once you have that in check, then you can then come up with a solid case. Because remember, when you approach your HR manager for an increment or your boss or whoever you report to, this is a matter of you having a solid case that justifies why they need to give you that increase. It's not just about you being a nice person. Yes, that is nice to have. However, how much are you giving into the company? How much of your work are you willing to take on without with all of you? So what that means is how much can you super exceed yourself in the workspace to show that you are really deserving of an increase. And also, once you've done that, we've spoken about the financial well-being of the company, you then need to come up with all your honest achievements that you've earned in the workplace. Whether you have volunteered yourself to stepping in onto someone's position without being appointed, somebody's going on sick leave, you could request management that, can I step into this? I want to learn a new role. And all of those are the things that an employer would look at in terms of how much of an initiative do you give with growing the business and being part of the business. Because remember, as business owners, we are constantly looking out for who is part of this team, who sees the business growing with them. It's not in our interest as employers to lose good staff members. So as Kgolo, for instance, in Uptown Mobile Cafe, it's my best interest to make sure that I give my employees benchmark salaries, the best that the company can afford, working conditions, but in the same breath, how much are they giving into the vision of the business? Because once you project yourself in a way that says, I am a part of this, I'm part of the vision, I follow the vision, I see myself growing with the business, then you stand a good chance of winning. And also, you need to have empathy so this is a two-pronged approach. You have, I would, inverted commas, I would say the hard skills and your soft skills. So the hard skills that we'll refer to in this instance are what are your achievements? We mentioned that. Have you done your research? Have you benchmarked your salary? What is the company's financial well-being? Also, where do you see yourself in this business? Because remember, it's not for us to lose people via salaries. And on the soft skills side of it, you look at things like empathy. I've mentioned empathy now. You enter this conversation as you would with a colleague and not somebody that you're afraid of. Because the minute you enter this conversation with your boss and there's a level of, this person is lacking some confidence, that is going to throw your case out the window. So you prepare a solid case for yourself. You request a meeting with the person you report to regarding the increment. And once you've done that, then you practice. And I always say this to people, even if it means you write down your speech, inverted commas, your increment speech, practice it, rehearse it, make sure that you articulate your value, because that is the most important thing that an employer wants to see. What is your value and how much of your value are you willing to give for the company? Effectively speak it, understand it, live it like it's your truth. That's what it boils down to. Employers are buying value from us. So once you've done that, then you make sure that you've got rapport with the person you are reporting to. In the event that there's a stalemate, you can't really get into an agreement, how much adaptability are you willing to give? Are you willing to give a middle ground? Are you willing to say, okay, if I cannot accept, or if the employer, for instance, at that point, because remember, everything is all about timing. So if you are going to ask or request a salary increase, timing is everything. I would normally advise people that understand your fiscal year in the business and also when a budget's being spent. Because if you sit down into HR manager and have an honest discussion about, I would like to apply for an increase based on XYZ. However, I want to position myself in a way that I stand a better chance of getting it. So understand your fiscal year. And if you position yourself towards the end of the fiscal year, then where the monies are spent, you stand a greater chance of being put in line for an increase, if I can put it like that. And once you've done that, what's then important is always prepare yourself for the worst case scenario. You may have all the accolades, you may have what is needed to succeed in a salary increment meeting. However, you may find that unfortunately at the time of you requesting, the company is not financially fit. Because remember, when you request a salary increment, you are looking at the monetary value of it. Now, if the employer comes back to you and says, okay, Kgolo, we cannot, for now, at this point, we are financially unfit to meet your proposal. However, we have a budget, in-house budget for training, for maybe gym membership, which are part of the company's perks. Are you willing to take those on in the interim? Because remember, this is an ongoing conversation. They could easily say, for now, we are not okay financially. However, let's review again in the next 3 to 6 months. However, in the interim, we will give you these perks. Are you adaptable in saying, okay, I'm willing to take these perks, looking at the bigger picture at the end of the road? So this is something that you need to look out for. And also, remember that, like I said earlier, an employer is not obligated to give an increment, right? Based on good performance. But now, what happens if you do not have, or you feel that you've been wronged, you deserve it, and you didn't get what was due to you? There's many ways of going about it, but before you take the final step of, now I'm taking this to, whether for a hearing outside the workplace, you must always make sure that the employer understands and knows exactly why you need an increment. And don't make the mistake of, even though I know it's something that is always in people's minds, we understand the cost of living is high, there's bills to be paid. Don't bring your personal issues to the table, because that just then says something else. Like, it just says, okay, we understand you want this, but where's the business featuring all of this? So try not put it bluntly that, actually, I want this money because I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Try and carve your statements or your arguments in a way that says, actually, the standards of living and the economic circumstances of the country are such that it makes it a bit challenging to do XYZ. Therefore, an increase will not help me, for instance, get to work faster because I can now afford a car. But because now I'm eating healthier, I no longer rely on like I can eat healthier foods now. I can be more productive in the workplace. So you just try and be creative with bearing in mind your immediate needs, your primary needs at that, but at the same time, bearing in mind that the employer is also human. So, excuse me. So there's no way that they can fault you with carving your argument that balances what the company is looking for and what you are looking for. So I hope so far, Mbali, I don't know if there's any questions so far or Yonela Mbali.
No, we haven't got any questions, so you can go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. So yeah, so like I explained, so this is where you would generally see yourself. To sum it up, so remember that we said you need to have a solid case before you go, and you need to start with doing the research. Know the market you're in. Know what kind of skills or how to upskill yourself so that when you approach the employer, you would mention that this is what I was intending to do going forward with my career. And if you show the pros of where you are going with your career in the business, it gives the employer a better chance of saying, you know what, actually, this person is well deserving of an increase. Yes, we may be having difficulties here and there, but this person stands in line to have an increment. And always remember that we are all human beings. And sometimes we get frustrated when things don't go our way, but always keep your emotions in check. There is nothing that beats emotional intelligence in these kind of negotiations. You may walk into a room with someone who didn't have a good start in the day. So you need to compose yourself through the whole meeting when you're requesting your salary. Because at the end of the day, the employer needs to see that you are well, and I keep emphasizing this, that you are well deserved of what you are asking, and that the employer recognizes your value to the best of their ability. And ladies and gentlemen, that is where I will end for now, unless there's anything else that you'd like to ask, or should we, Yonela, sorry.
I think you've said quite a bit, which I'm sure people want to chew on. And
Okay.
so I think let's welcome some open discussion. We just
Yeah.
playing it differently a little bit. So not so much the questions formally, but like an open discussion just to engage with Kgolo and all that she said, because I'm listening and I'm judging myself for some of the conversations I've had. I remember back few years back early in my career, I also went to negotiate for a salary increase, but my stance was it's unfair. I deserve more. I live in Centurion. I work in Boxback. It's so far. Who must pour my petrol? And I could see the guy's face is like, so what? Like move to a township closer, girl. Like, why do you have to, you know what I mean? You start getting people into your space in terms of what you dress, how you dress, and they almost want to tell you, oh, just go buy China City. Okay, it's gonna be cheaper, blah, blah, blah. And maybe, Kgolo, as a first question from my side, what are some of those mistakes maybe you want to share, which you did maybe earlier in your career, in also almost looking at it from a negative perspective or a different perspective to look at it from you versus the company's side?
I think the biggest mistake early on in my career that I made was think that I deserve it. You know, that attitude of I'm entitled to it. I'm a nice person. Hence, when I started, I made it quite clear that it's not just being good at what you do, but it's being exceptionally well at what you do. Because employers don't pay for mediocrity. You know, sometimes as people, we have this group psych that gets us wild, and we assume that, oh, actually, Yonela did this, therefore, if I'm also doing this, therefore, it doesn't work like that. There's a reason why Yonela would have given an increment at that particular time. So it's always wise to know, first and foremost, the contents of your employment contract. That is, I know some people just sign and just shelve it. It's not a document to be shelved. You need to thoroughly understand it. Where you are not sure, go back to HR manager. Make sure that you're signing a document that, because in the event of a misunderstanding or some, I don't know, grievance arises, that is your living Bible. And also just especially if you're new in the office, you know, I'm not saying be friends with everyone, but it's always nice to get an idea of the company works like this. Therefore, this is what happens. So in the event that a company has maybe exceeded so many targets, there's likelihood that this is going to happen. Because like I said, some companies would give you increments, some would give you bonuses, some would feel like perks are better monetary exchange versus actual money for various reasons. But it's for you to say, okay, this is what I'm accepting, but going forward, I know that this is what's going to happen for me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yep, I know. Very tough one. Busi, I'm going to let you unmute if you don't mind, and you can tell us or ask your question because we want to engage. And I think if you are here, you probably will speak. Okay, so no running away. And let's hand it over to you, Busi. Can you maybe just vocalize your question?
Hi, everyone. My name is Busi. So I asked Jorge, how do you determine the best time to request for maybe like a performance increase, right? Knowing that you've also seen that, okay, the company's doing good and you've also been doing your best. You've been the employee of the month, but no increase. So yes, how do you determine the best time to request for it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi.
Thank you, Busi. Timing is everything. Let's hear from Kgolo.
Yeah. So thank you for the question, because I think it's a question that a lot of people always ask themselves, when is the best time? And like I said earlier, that timing is everything. And it's something that employees need to understand, that make what happens in the company your business. So know what happens in the fiscal year. So if for example, when is your financial year end happens, you need to understand that, okay, when this budget's being allocated, what is the likelihood of money spent on salaries? Because it doesn't hurt to ask in your company that, okay, because I'm trying to understand, I've been given the employee of the month so many times, I excel what I do, I would want to approach the performance increment meeting, but I just want to position myself correct, because financial year ends are different for every company. But in that financial year end, make sure that you understand when budget allocations happen. Alongside that would be expenditures that the company is willing to spend on. So once you get that information for yourself, will you then make the decision of, okay, I will wait it out until the last few months towards the financial year end, or I will wait for the next new financial year. So that's how best I can probably advise you on that. Because I cannot say what works for us will work for your employer, but make sure that it's within that financial year. And if they say to you, no, it cannot happen now, always ask. So what is the best time for a review? Can I come back maybe in the next 3 months? Put it out to them so that they know that this is something that you take to heart. You are not just asking because you want to buy a fancy bag, but you are deserving of what you've given in the company. So it's always good to say, okay, I understand that this is where we are now, but can I come back in the next 3 months? And then throw the ball in their face. Like, can I come back in the next 3 months for a review? Because that says to them, oh, actually, this person is actually looking out for not just the company, but for themselves also, because it says that you are willing to take a leap of faith in the business, but also you are being understanding of the company's situation at the time. So I hope I've answered your question there.
Yeah, very beautifully answered, I think. Do we have any other more question from the floor? Yes, Mbali, please go ahead.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Bali here.
Hello.
So just to get a better understanding. So now if you've looked at everything, you've determined that you feel like you deserve one, do you first talk to your manager? Or is it just you send an email out? When you send the email out, you just send it to your manager, or do you send it to HR? Or who do you include? How do conversations go about?
Okay. So with regards to reporting channels, some offices have, like I mentioned earlier, open door policies. You can just get up your desk, go to see HR manager and present your case. But in some cases, you would find that there's a structure of reporting. So ask your immediate superior to say, in the event that I've got you don't have to say even a increment. You can just be, because sometimes there's friction in the workplace. Sometimes there's issues between managers and staff, and so you may find that it may not be the best person to speak to, but just be blunt about it. Just say to them, listen, I would like to find out how does one approach requesting a meeting for a salary increment, and who is the best person to request it with. Then if that person can answer you, it's always in your interest to then go straight to HR, because then in your email that you'd write, you would reference that I had spoken to this person who is my immediate line manager. However, they then couldn't give me, or they referred me to you, and that's why now my request is coming straight to you. But always follow your protocols in the workplace. Don't overstep on people's toes, and don't what's what I'm looking for. So just know that there's a hierarchy in the office for a reason. And you just need to follow that hierarchy to get your best chance at that review. Because remember, everybody would like an increase, but it's not everybody that's going to be given one. So it's a very dicey situation. But if you know your story and you are very professional with going about it, you stand a better chance of getting it. So just know your hierarchy in terms of reporting channels. And if your immediate line manager cannot assist you, it doesn't hurt to ask HR directly by referencing them in the same breath. Because remember, you don't want to overstep them, and you don't want to sound like you are now jumping the gun by not asking them initially, but you just started with them. And if they cannot give you a solid answer, then it doesn't harm you to go straight to HR manager.
Okay, thank you.
I have so many questions, but we need to get to the debate part of this discussion for tonight. So I will hold back, but I'm thinking, what if my manager doesn't like me? What if someone's asking me to join a group? Can we hold off for 1 second, please? But we'll get to that. What if they don't like me? What if there's animosity, right? How do I live through that? I know Busi also has got another question, but we're going to park those, right? We're going to park those questions, and we want to get into the debate part, and maybe the questions and the thinking thereof can come in there, right? Because we want to actually just hash it out and get people in the room to also participate and tell us what they would think. So how is the debate going to work? Well, we are going to split you guys into 2 different teams, and the topic for debate is employees are entitled to a performance increase, and of course the opposite side would be the opposite of that statement. Employees are not necessarily entitled to a performance increase. And of course, the elements that we've talked about, right, and what we have covered with Kgolo just shortly is going to help inform how you can debate that. So we'll have 2 groups, and then we will have, or rather people will have the opportunity to come and present back to us their different views, and there's almost going to be a team that rebut on the point that is being made. So there's going to be an interesting conversation. And I think some of the questions we have, we'll see, keep that in mind, and mine as well. We can keep them for the part that's coming. So